Welcome to another episode of the Mixtape Matinee. I'm your host, Cole.
And I'm Court.
And this week, we are very excited to have on one of my really good friends, Eli Andersen, on.
Woo!
What's up?
So, say hi, Eli, to everyone.
Hi, guys.
Eli, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, my name's Eli. I live in Salt Lake City, and I play in a lot of bands down here. And then I have my own band called Olympic Death, with a couple records out. Play guitar and drums.
Yeah.
Olympic Death.
Olympic Death, yeah. Everyone should check it out. You're also in a band called Star 67.
Yes. Just finished practicing with them, actually.
Yeah, and the main difference between that, I guess, is Olympic Death. That's like all you writing the songs, right?
Yeah, so Olympic Death is like a solo project with a live band, and then Star 67's a collaborative thing.
Do you play the drums for all the different bands that you're a part of, or?
Yeah, I do. Nice.
Yeah, Eli's super talented. I've known Eli for a couple of years now, and I was just telling Court before we started that we recorded an album together. I just need to finish like mixing it and everything. So I'm hoping that'll be out later this year.
When did you guys record that?
Oh, that was like September of like. It was like, what, 2 years ago?
Oh, it's been a while.
It would have been,
Okay.
It's like 2023 September.
Well, it'll be 2 years in September, but I'm going to have it out before then, I swear. But anyway, yeah, Eli's super talented drummer, and I just wanted to have you on because I think you probably have a lot of interesting things to say about music. So
thank you. I'm stoked to be here.
Yeah, so Eli, for this week, you decided to pick a Fugazi album. You want to tell everybody kind of about the album and kind of your history with it and why you picked it?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been getting super into Fugazi lately, or back into them, I should say, because Fugazi is a super important band to me, because it's one of the first bands I was really introduced to, like, in general, because my dad, my dad's like about 50. He grew up in the 90s and late 80s, so he was kind of a Salt Lake hardcore scene sort of guy, and played in some bands. And so
was he also a drummer?
No, he was a guitarist. He played drums too.
Okay.
But he was mainly a guitarist. So he played in some bands around here, like when he was in high school and after high school. But Fugazi is his favorite band. So I naturally, being the oldest child, and whenever I'd be spending time with my dad, he'd be playing Fugazi in the car or wherever it was, and so that was just like my first introduction to rock music, I guess. And so it's kind of funny to me because it is like, at this point, Fugazi and like a lot of post-hardcore stuff is just basically like dad rock. But it's also, especially like in the past couple years, I think that like post-hardcore and hardcore and scrams and that kind of stuff from that era of just like, I guess like mid to late 90s is really like coming back, and it's like a cool thing to be playing in a band that plays stuff like that. But I don't know. Yeah, Fugazi is just super important because I think that they all came out of the DC hardcore scene, and then kind of started to reject the hardcore scene and started just trying to make music, it seems like, for music's sake rather than like, they were obviously a part of a larger scene, but they got really weird towards the end of it, which I really like.
Yeah. So tell us, like, why did you specifically pick this one, Red Machine, which I would
Medicine.
say isn't like their, Red Medicine. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't say like this is like their most popular one. So why did you pick this one?
I mean, this is an album that I have probably listened to maybe the most out of all of their stuff, just because it was just, my dad had the CD of it, and then when I got older and had a CD player, I would listen to that CD all the time. But it kind of marks like a sort of turning point in their discography, where their album before this, I believe, was In on the Kill Taker, which is also a great album from front to back. but not they don't get quite as like weird on it, and they aren't like Red Medicine kind of it was just a turning point, and after Red Medicine it was End Hits, which is really weird, and then The Argument, which is their last album, which also is has some pretty weird stuff going on. But the difference between In on the Kill Taker and Red Medicine is that they started adding all these kind of like home recordings as like kind of interludes or intros to songs. And like being when I was a little kid hearing that stuff, that was like pretty, I don't know, it was just really interesting. Obviously, I was born in 2000, and I, was exposed to the radio and heard all the music was on the radio, but I did never hear anything like the intro to Do You Like Me, which is the first track on the album. So the album opens up with this really distorted, blown out recording of them. It's like pretty unintelligible what's going on, but I guess it's just them jamming, and it's super blown out and crazy. And then it goes into the song, and just never.
Which like the intro part isn't even like close to like what the song is.
No,
is
not at all. It's just
shift.
A random kind of just free jam kind of thing that's going on.
Yeah. Well, when I was reading up on the album, I guess before this they had different producers on a lot of their previous albums, but this one they decided to take it on themselves, and so because of that they did a lot of experimentation like when they were recording it.
Yeah, and they also I know they might have been doing this already before, like on the album before, but I was reading about it, and there was like one of their aunts or something had a house in Guilford, Connecticut, and they had bought an 8-track tape machine, and they would go up to Connecticut to write and like record demos and stuff, and they'd record on other things. Like I know that intro that I was just barely talking about, it was recorded on like a boom box, but the band was so loud that it was just fully blowing out the microphones on the boom box. And so yeah, they got pretty weird with it. Like another example of that is the song Version, which I believe was recorded at the Guilford house, but that song is just the demo of the other song on the album, Long Distance Runner, but they just added all these delays and reverbs to everything and dubbed it out, because one of Fugazi's big influences, like genre-wise, was dub music, which I think there was a pretty big like dub and kind of reggae scene in DC around that time.
Yeah, I think Version's also the song that they have the clarinet on,
yes.
Right?
Yeah.
It's just like also kind of interesting that they chose to do that.
Yeah. Well, I remember hearing it when I was a kid and being like, that's horrible. Like, that doesn't go with the music at all. Yeah. Yeah,
it's funny. Yeah, Version and the other instrumental song on the album is Combination Lock.
Yes.
Which I both the instrumental songs are actually really cool.
Yeah.
I've listened to this album before, probably not as much as you, Eli, but yeah, it was kind of fun kind of doing a deep dive into it and kind of realizing that they were doing a lot of atmospheric kind of experimentation type of stuff on this album.
Yeah, yeah.
So, Eli, what's we told you to pick 3 of your favorite tracks. What 3 did you pick for this album?
Number 1 has got to be Birthday Pony. That might be my all-time favorite Fugazi song. It's that that song's amazing. Long Distance Runner, number 2.
The farther I go, the less I know. One foot goes in front of the other.
And then number 3 is probably a tie between Bed for the Scraping and Do You Like Me. I really can't pick between those two. If I had to, I guess I'd probably pick Bed for the Scraping as number 3.
All those songs are great. The 3 that I picked, I really like Do You Like Me? I think that's a great song to start the album off on.
Yeah.
The other one, the one I was actually most surprised at, I think that I really like is Bayou, which is the only one that Joe Lally, the bass player, sings on.
Yes.
I feel like he has I love his voice. And I love that song, even though I think it's the longest song on the album. I don't know. That's probably a tie between Do You Like Me and Bayou. Those are probably my 2 favorite ones. And then the third one that I really liked was Target.
That one is also really good.
So I think I like listening to this album. No hate on Ian MacKaye, because I think he's super important and has a lot of interesting things to say. And he has had a huge influence. But I feel like I like the songs more where Guy is singing than Ian.
I honestly, I agree with that. I love Ian too, but I think also his name it's spelled Guy, but apparently it's pronounced Guy. But
Guy.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's like Italian or French or something. But he really adds a lot, I think, to the band. His guitar playing is super underrated too. He's like, neither of them are super technically skilled or anything. But I feel like Guy really thinks outside of the box and just does a lot of stuff. And he plays a Rickenbacker, which I think is really sick. And
which you just barely bought a new one. So
I did buy a Rickenbacker.
And was that kind of the influence of you wanting to buy one?
Definitely.
Somewhat.
Since I was a kid, just seeing like pictures of Guy playing one, I was like, that is the coolest looking guitar ever. And then unfortunately, they're so expensive. But I got a big tax return, bought one, and I understand why they're expensive. They're very well made.
Did you get the same color as Guy?
I got a green one. It's like this kind of teal, metallic green color, which I'd never seen before. And I looked it up online, and they were going for way more money than this one was selling for. So I was like, well, that's cool. Yeah. But it is a thing where the Rickenbacker, like, just from playing it, I've heard like Rickenbackers and Jaguars and Jazzmasters kind of compared a lot because they're played by like they all have the kind of jangly sound, but then they kind of have a presence and like noisier stuff. But I gotta say, with the Rickenbacker, it is a noise machine in the best way possible. Like, not necessarily like it hums a bunch and does stuff like that, but you can get some crazy sounds out of it that I've never really been able to get out of any other guitar. So I think that playing this, it like makes a lot of sense. I can hear the parts that Guy is playing a lot easier when I listen to the songs.
Huh. Yeah, next time I come down there, I'll have to try playing. I want to try playing that.
Dude, yeah, for sure.
To see how it is. So, kind of remind me again, because I'm not exactly sure. As far as, like, the guitar parts, is Ian playing more of the rhythm, or is it the other way around?
It seems like there's not really a clear distinction between, like, lead and rhythm, but Ian's guitar tone is a lot, like, thicker sounding.
Yeah, because he's playing through that Marshall, right?
Yeah, and he plays an SG with like big humbuckers on it, and I think they both play through Marshalls or like Marshall style amps. But a Rickenbacker in tone is much closer to like a Telecaster or just a Fender kind of sound.
More high end kind of.
Yeah, and then Ian also, and this is something I respect a lot. He didn't use any pedals. It was just straight into the amp, and all of the sounds he was getting were from feedback or adjusting the tone and the volume on his guitar, and which I think is I really like when a band does that.
Which is kind of like out of necessity because I think a lot of punk bands would do that so that when people would get on the stage, they wouldn't mess up, the whole pedals situation. That's also kind of how Minutemen did it.
Yeah.
They did it straight into the amps because of that.
One thing that I really like about it too is that I think a band, they don't get compared a ton, but when I listen to them, I can hear a lot of similarities. But Sonic Youth and Fugazi, I think especially towards the later part of the 90s, were doing a lot of similar things. But I gotta say, the guitar noises that Fugazi were getting a lot of the times are even crazier than the Sonic Youth ones. And I know Sonic Youth was using all kinds of guitars, all kinds of tunings, and all kinds of amps and pedals and stuff. And so it is like just really with everything they do, it's sometimes doing stuff in a simpler way can open up more doors,
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's almost like Fugazi kind of did some interesting things, and then Sonic Youth just kind of took it to a whole different level, I guess, with all those different options. But yeah, I can definitely see what you
Sonic Youth does predate Fugazi by like close to 10 years, I think. They started in like the late 70s, which is kind of crazy.
Oh, I guess I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Dang. That's crazy. Court, what were your favorite 3 tracks on the album?
I really like Do You Like Me? And then I wanted to say I almost chose Birthday Pony as well. But I actually ended up going with Target as my number 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then my third was actually one that neither of you picked, which was Downed City.
Okay.
I felt like it just rocked really hard, and
Yeah.
it was just an epic track.
Yeah,
So,
it seems like we picked a lot of the same tracks, which is
Yeah.
kind of interesting without even
Yeah.
talking about it.
yeah.
Court, what were your overall thoughts on the album?
I really liked it. I thought it was interesting how they could, on some of the tracks, the sounds would just quickly change, like, and I thought that was really cool. Like even just the intro track, you already talked about it, but how they had that really blown out sound, and then going into the rest of the song, it's just a totally different vibe. I thought that was cool. Definitely felt, compared to the other album, I felt like this one felt more like rock adjacent, like, if that makes sense. And yeah, I enjoyed it.
Sweet, yeah, and I think I would agree with that. The reason why, I guess going into like kind of the next album, I mean, I don't want to jump the gun a little bit, but the reason why I did pick the band that I picked, the album I picked, is just the influence that they have had. Like Fugazi has had a lot of influence on a lot of the bands that I like now. And it's kind of cool going back and listening to these Fugazi albums and then kind of seeing the through line and seeing, what they actually did as far as hardcore music and punk music, and not even just those, but like other genres too. Because a lot of people will cite Fugazi as, inspirations for their music.
Who is the singer on Target?
I think isn't that Guy?
Yeah,
Eli?
I think that's Guy.
Okay. Yeah. Yep, it's Guy.
Okay. Yeah, I liked Guy on that.
What's your final thoughts on the album, Eli? I mean, I know you talked a lot about it, but
I mean, I just think it's a underrated album in the Fugazi discography. I guess there's not a ton to say about it other. It's just I just think it's really important, and it really when you listen to it, it makes a lot more sense. What they were doing on End Hits and how that they kind of, because honestly, I do think objectively End Hits is a better album than Red Medicine. But this album is really interesting to me because you can see how they took a lot of similar ideas and kind of went in the same direction, but really perfected it on End Hits.
yeah. What's your thoughts on the name of the album? Why do you think they named it that?
I don't know. I did look into that a little bit, and I didn't really find anything, but it is a cool name. I don't know.
It is a cool name, and I was thinking about it when I was listening to it. I was like, I wonder why they named it this, but then I never really looked into it.
Because none of the songs really mention red medicine that I can think of.
No.
Yeah,
But I'm sure there's some internal thing that they were thinking about.
well, it is
when
like
they did it.
I know with maybe it's just something that they were kind of doing in this era, but I know like the reason they named end hits was because there's like at the end of the song in the last song F/D, they just put in a bunch of different takes of these hits that they were doing on for a completely different song. They just threw all those takes in, so it's basically like a hidden track on the album, but there's just a bunch of hits, just dun 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 dun. Okay, take two. Dun 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 dun. You know, and it just does that at the end of the album. That's why they named it that. So they might have just been like, oh, it sounds cool or it's funny or something. You know, I really don't know.
Yeah.
But.
Huh. That's cool. Well, everyone go out, and if you haven't listened to this album, go listen to it with and yeah, if you haven't listened to Fugazi, I guess start with this one and then go from there. So I guess I'll go into the album that I decided to pair with Red Medicine is this album by this band called Landowner, they are from Massachusetts. And the album is Consultant from 2020. The people in the band are Dan Shaw on vocals, Jeff Glamartin on guitar, Elliot Hughes on guitar, Josh Olsley on bass, and Josh Daniel on drums. This album was recorded in December of 2019. And yeah, it's pretty much, Landowner is pretty much Dan Shaw's project. He writes all the songs, writes all the lyrics. And then they get together and they record the albums, and then put it out. Kind of interesting about Dan Shaw is kind of the story of Landowner is he was living in Seattle, and then I guess he got a job in Massachusetts and moved. And he was really into music. He was in a band before, but he didn't know anybody when he went to Massachusetts, so he decided to start writing music on his own. And so he had a laptop, had a drum machine, had like a guitar and like a small amp. And so the first Landowner album actually is all Dan doing everything. But the reason why, I guess the sound of Landowner is similar to Fugazi, where it's really stripped back. They don't use any pedals. It's really clean guitar tones, clean bass tone. And so yeah, the songs are really structured out. They're super tight. How he writes is actually kind of interesting. I was reading an interview that he did with a music magazine, and he actually starts with the drums, and then he'll write a guitar part, and then he'll do a second guitar part that kind of adds to the other guitar part, and then he writes bass last, which is kind of interesting. And he says that writing the bass parts is like the funnest part. He kind of saves the best for last, so to speak. And then his lyrics are also super interesting. It's kind of poetry almost, like how he presents it in the songs. So anyway, I think Landowner is just a really interesting, unique band, and the reason why I decided to pair it with this Fugazi album is Dan actually, in a lot of different interviews that I read, he references Fugazi as a big influence on like getting into music. And so I just thought that these two albums would pair really well together, especially with like the stripped back kind of approach that we were kind of talking about earlier.
Cole, correct me if I'm wrong, but you saw them in St. Louis, right?
Yeah, so this was crazy. So the only reason why I know about Landowner is because of my amazing wife Tabitha. She found, I don't know how she found them, but found a song from their first album. And so we both had been listening to them for a while, but yeah, we took a trip out to see my friend Brendan in St. Louis. And when we were there, we realized, we saw on their Instagram page, like, oh, they're playing in St. Louis the same weekend we were there. So we went and saw them, and it was super fun. We actually were able to talk to them before the show started. They played at like this really cool DIY art show space.
Oh, cool.
And they were just like sitting there, and we recognized them and just went up and started talking to them. Yeah, he was super surprised. He's like, whoa, we have fans in Idaho? As we told him that we flew all the way from Idaho. But yeah, it was super fun to see them. When I saw them, I have to say I've been to a lot of shows, but I have never seen a band more tight than Landowner. Like with their music, you almost can't make a mistake, because if you make a mistake, you're gonna hear it, because none of the players hide behind distortion or anything. So anyway, the most tight band I've ever seen. And then the other interesting thing about their setup that I haven't seen anywhere, and maybe you have, Eli, but the drummer, he only plays no cymbals, just snare, bass drum, hi-hat, and floor tom. So nothing else, which I thought was so interesting. It's very stripped back drums thing. Have you ever seen that? Any other band?
I mean, I know Zach Hill did that with Death Grips for a while. Not when I saw Death Grips, but there was a time where he was doing no cymbals. And then that band, I'm blanking on their name. They're really popular in like the 2010 Alt J. I remember when I was in like junior high, like learning that he did. I don't think he uses any cymbals. He hits like a bucket or something as like a ride sound. And
okay.
I remember being like, "That's crazy." I don't know about that, but yeah. I honestly haven't listened to Alt J since then. But that is one band that comes to mind. The more drums you can, or the less drums you can get away with playing, the cooler. Honestly.
Yeah, I totally respect drummers that can do that. Like when I saw him, I was like, dang, this guy's a machine. Like, because the music, because Dan Shaw writes on a drum machine, like that's how it translates to when they record it. And so it's just super impressive when someone can play like that.
Yeah.
To me, as far as the drumming goes. So I'll talk about my 3 favorite tracks. So the first off, Swiss Pavilion. I love that song so much. Kind of what the song is talking about. He's like legit talking about like urban development, because I found out that Dan Shaw, like he has a day job and he does like landscape, what is it? It's landscape architecture. So he designs like outdoor spaces for like buildings and stuff. But this song, he's talking all about kind of like urban development, and that it's like slowly like we're trying to save the planet, but at the same time we're like making like living standards like super, super tight and like not smart. Anyway, it's kind of an interesting thing that he's using this vehicle of like punk music to talk about something that he knows, which is super cool. Because when you're writing music, you write about things that you know. And anyway, I like that he wrote a song all about that. My second favorite track is This Could Mean Something. This song is the riffs in the song are so catchy, and my favorite part of the song is at the very end when the drums kind of start messing with the time, and the guitars and bass are doing the exact same thing. They're keeping time, but the drums are just almost kind of going at a really weird time signatures and kind of messing with the beat. And then the drums come right back in, and it's the most satisfying part of the song. Then my last favorite track is Mystery Solved, which has just a great bass riff that plays throughout. And even though it's a 7-minute song, I almost feel like I would want to hear it forever. I want it to keep going.
Mystery solved! Thank you for your interest! But the period for questions has closed! They offered no comments! Ribbon cut! Grab rope! Ribbon cut! No comments! Ribbon cut! Grab rope! Ribbon cut! Before they hit the tether,
And when we saw them, they actually played Mystery Solved, which was so fun to see them playing that song. So what I'll do is I might post a link to some of the photos that Tabitha took of that show. She took some really cool photos of that concert.
So when I was listening to the album, I was driving down to Orem, and that's just one thing that's been kind of blowing my mind. I was not noticing that there were no cymbals on the album for some reason. I don't know if it was just like
I know, isn't that crazy? I didn't realize it until we went and saw them live. I was like, oh my gosh, there's no cymbals. I don't know how I didn't notice that.
Yeah, I guess it must have just been the kind of the trebliness of the guitars or something, because I feel like, I don't know, cymbals are never something that really stick out a lot.
Right, yeah.
When you're listening to a band, but they're there, and you can usually tell when they're gone.
Well,
but,
he also does like a thing where he does the open hi-hat thing to kind of mimic.
Oh,
kind of
okay.
like a
So
cymbal.
he's playing with a hi-hat then.
Yeah, no, he's sorry.
Oh,
I should have said that. Yeah, he's playing with a hi-hat. I think I mentioned that before. So he's not doing a ride or a crash, but he's doing a hi-hat.
That makes more sense. That makes more sense why I didn't notice the no cymbals. But that is still really sick.
Yeah, but when I was listening to it, I didn't like I heard the hi-hat, but I didn't realize that there wasn't any crash or rides, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's
what
really
were
cool.
your thoughts on it though? I mean, I know you were just kind of listening to it. What did you think when you heard the album, Eli?
I just see, this is a problem. I probably wasn't listening close enough, but I did feel like it's kind of a change of pace from other kind of like, I guess I kind of clocked it as like a post-punk kind of thing. And it just felt like a textural change of pace from that kind of stuff. Like bands like what's the name of that band? Stuck. I've listened to Stuck, which I clocked it as kind of similar to that.
Court, what was your favorite tracks on the album?
So my favorite track by far was Mystery Solved. I just thought that the lyrics were really interesting. The bass is really fun on it. And I just, even though it is a longer song, like you said, I definitely jammed out to it the whole time and didn't feel like it was too long.
Yeah.
And then I also really liked This Could Mean Something. I thought those lyrics were really cool as well. Kind of existential, kind of reminded me of some of my own existential questions that I've had in life.
Yeah.
And I liked it. And then I liked Phantom Vibration.
That's a good song too.
Yeah.
Do you know what that song's about?
I don't even know what it's about.
So I was reading up on it. He wrote that, like, the whole thing that started it was like, you know, the feeling you get when you get a text or you think you get a text message, and it's like it's a phantom vibe. Like, it didn't actually. Yeah, that's like the whole genesis of why he started writing.
I didn't realize that that's what it was about. Interesting lyrics and clever lyrics.
Yeah.
I thought that this band, his vocal delivery is very different than Fugazi.
Yeah.
But you know who it did remind me of?
Who's that?
It kind of felt like a toned down shellac with the vocal delivery.
Oh, yeah, I could kind of see that.
Kind of the way the
like how Steve Albini, his delivery.
Steve Albini's voice. I feel like that could have been an influence. It was maybe a little less strong or a little less. Steve Albini has that really, really like characteristic style that he delivers the lyrics in. But this felt kind of adjacent to that. It felt kind of like maybe it was taking inspiration from that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good pick.
You know,
and I'll be honest, I also didn't really. I felt like it was stylistically different enough from Fugazi from the Red Medicine album that I didn't pick. I was like, I wonder why Cole picked this one.
Why did he pick this one?
Yeah, but it was fun to listen to it.
I also wanted to pick this band because they're just like not as known. They're a little less
Yeah.
known, and I thought it would be kind of interesting to pair it with a band that's a little more known.
Definitely giving post-punk
Yeah.
vibes. Yeah.
Yeah, the other thing that I failed to mention too about Mystery Solved, like the lyrical content of it is it's super political song because it's talking about problems in the world and that sometimes there's all this kind of red tape with things in the government and sometimes like things magically get taken care of. If like the powers that be, if they want something done, they'll get it done. Not necessarily for like the common man. So I also thought that was kind of interesting that it's a super political song when you like look at the lyrics of it.
Yeah, this album overall feels like a political critique, very rebellious lyrics.
Yeah.
When I listen back to it, I'm gonna need to listen to the lyrics more because just from what you're saying about the lyrics of this song, that does sound very Fugazi influenced.
And I think the kind of like the stripped backness of like Landowner, like how he writes and like how I said there's like no cymbals and stuff and that there's like no distortion on the guitars. It really like kind of puts the lyrics at the forefront, like his vocals and stuff, like makes you kind of pay attention to it a little bit. But also he's kind of fun. When we saw him, it was kind of fun. He was kind of giving me like a David Byrne kind of vibe.
Oh,
like
really?
He's like this really like skinny dude, and then he's kind of like he's just really fun to watch. I don't know if you've
His mannerisms.
Yeah, if you've ever seen like Talking Heads, like he gives like kind of that style like performance. It was fun watching him perform. But.
One other big contrast I would say between the two albums is the instrumentation really felt front and center on the Fugazi album. Like, not that the lyrics go to the foreground or anything, but
Yeah.
it just was like really there in your face instrumentation, which I liked. But like you said, the spotlight in Landowner definitely is the vocals.
Yeah.
Like, so that was an interesting contrast.
But it's also cool because Landowner, there's so much like it's like simple. There's simple riffs,
Yeah.
but it's also so intricate. And another thing that I read too when I was reading up on Landowner is like when he's writing the songs, like he's kind of like it's not super exciting, like they're kind of boring. But then when he adds the other guitar part and the bass part, that's when it kind of becomes interesting as well. So even though it's like he's not playing anything, they're not playing anything that crazy, but the fact that there's kind of like this repetitiveness in the music, that's like what kind of gives it an energy as well to it. So I like that a lot. So everybody go out and check out Landowner. We'll add their Instagram account to the show notes so you can go follow them. They play a lot of shows on the East Coast, obviously. I don't think they've really played out west. If they did, I would totally go see them. Anyway, love this band. They're great. So thanks, Eli, so much for being on the podcast today, man. We
Yeah.
really appreciate you being on here.
It was fun.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, can you kind of fill it? Can you kind of tell the audience what are some new stuff that you're working on musically?
Well, I'm working on a new release for Olympic Death right now. And then we are going to be doing a little like East Coast, Midwest kind of tour at the end of May, which I'm May and early June, which I'm really excited about.
Oh, that's cool. Hey,
and
maybe you can play with Landowner.
that would be sick. We haven't gotten anything booked in Massachusetts as of yet, but
Well, I bet they would be down.
I'll have to hit him up about that.
Yeah,
But,
you'll have to hit them up.
The also me and my homie Tate, who also plays in Olympic Death and who I'm also in a lot of other bands with. Me and Tate started a project. It's called Infinite Coachella, and we have been hard at work at writing for it, and I'm very stoked about the stuff we've been recording and writing. So keep your eyes peeled for Infinite Coachella.
Yeah, so that's just two guitars, and then are you adding other stuff with it, or?
So yeah, the first show we played was just two guitars with a some like voice memos of drums we had recorded.
Mm-hmm.
And then now we actually have a show this next Friday on. I don't know if this episode will be out by then, but March 7th. And I'm switching to drums, and our friend Weston, who is in a project called Genki, he is playing my guitar parts, and Chris Garcia, who plays in Star 67, will be playing bass. So we're kind of expanding it to be a full band thing and recording it as if it, is played by a band.
Okay, super cool. Well, I'm excited about that. Yeah, maybe when you put out the Olympic Death album, maybe we'll have to have you come on and we can interview you about that album.
Yeah, for sure. It'll probably be more of a longer EP than an album, but
okay,
it'll be it'll be a
still
release.
Worth telling people about.
Yeah.
Cool. Where can people follow you at?
At Olympic Death spelled DETH on Instagram. At star67, star with 2 R's, UT on Instagram. Or you can follow me on Instagram, Eli78 Andersen with an SEN.
Cool. Okay, we'll link all of those those tags in the show notes. So go follow Eli. Okay, thanks so much, Eli. We'll talk to you later, dude. Thanks.
Thank you.